Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way. Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way. Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Now is the time to go and live your life today. Soon we will all not be here to spend any space. Soon we will all decay. Time is up soon. I'm not here to scare you, but we will all decay. Or like something that hasn't been touched in days. Make the best of everything you do today, because once you live will not get to play. We spend everything we do to make a living. I don't know much, but I know that nothing is giving, because one day we will all decay. Being gone is nothing to be afraid. Life happens, some early, some young, but in the end we're all great. Go and get paid. Go and drink that bottle before we all decay. Some die early and some die so late. I'm blessed to be on this earth and be able to say that this money is what I'm after, it's what I chase. One day we will all die, so turn to God and pray, because one day we will all decay. Because everything on once dies, everything on once fades away. We will all decay. Soon we will decay. Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way. Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. I go hard for every breath that I take. You should do the same even when you're in space. The older we get, the more we lose time. I'm 26, I'ma focus and stay up on my grind. We lose hearing, we lose our sight. Don't give up fighting the good aging fight. We slow down, our bodies become weak. It's just life, it happens as we speak. But mainly, it happens when we just breathe. Years go by and life takes a huge leap. I once saw a dead body who was decaying in the streets. Then I heard the talking trees. We all decay fast and slow, that's what it seems. But we made the best of ourselves at least. I'm no preacher, but this music is what I preach. Life has us on a tight leash. But God is good, nothing to be afraid of when you speak. Breezy's button is like the button beep. We all decay soon, and I hope to make the best of it when I teach. In the studio is where you can find me. Soon we will all decay and be deceased, because everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way. Everything on once dies and starts to fade away. Everything on once dies and starts to decay. Everything on once dies and goes a separate way.